Hello, everyone. My topic is related to the geoheritage and related geotourism in Trans-Himalayan district that is named Lahaul And Spiti. That is in a province called HIMACHAL Pradesh, adjoining the Chinese border on the Himalayan side. So it is part of the Trans-Himalayan side that I'm talking about. So this particular district is very unique as it is covered from all sides by huge mountains. So what happens? For 6 months, it's open to people, and for 6 months, it's closed because of this heavy snowfall. So it's a very interesting place where I have done this study related to geotourism and what kind of geoheritage sites are there. So we'll be taking you through the presentation. Now, first of all, it's to understand that Himalaya itself is very fragile ecosystem, and it is also at the same time credited to be one of the most significant geological and geomorphological features in Asia and on Earth as well. So that's why geoheritage and geodiversity studies become very much pertinent for us, for geoscientists, in terms of the Himalayan region. And that's why I have conducted this study in this particular scenario, and where I have tried to understand the better management of geoheritage sites with inclusive principles of human responses to those sites. So not just the abiotic features, but also the human responses to those features. So that is what I am talking in terms of my study. So when I go further in this study, I'll just talk about that what geoheritage is basically. So it is that component of geodiversity that has specific value to it. So that is important for human beings as well. And overall, it has value in geosciences. So in my district where I'm talking about this particular study, it is famous because of one particular reason, because it is having abundance of Tethyan sediments and fossils. So that is what it takes, and it makes this site valuable in terms of geoheritage site. So there are numerous fossils, as it is there on your screen. If you see, they're exposed, and abundance of fossils make it a rich and valuable geoheritage site in the Himalayan region. So now look at the study area. So the study area is this particular place where you see at the bottom of the image. So it is Trans-Himalayan. It means when you cross the greater Himalayan region, that is the highest altitude, then you reach the Tibetan flat area, that is the plateau area. So that is where this study is based. And geotourism based on geoheritage sites basically are important for this particular area as it is unique in its characteristics. So we are going to look at that. Now, just for the presence of this understanding, let's see that what kind of uniqueness is there. So if you look into these images, you'll find that these are ancient paleoglacial fans. So glaciofluvial fans are there, and now they have been completely humanized. So you see the settlements being there. So settlements have overtaken those ancient glaciofluvial fans, and that is why it is interesting to note the geoheritage site and its human responses that I'm talking about. So there are numerous such sites in this particular area where human beings have completely humanized, cultured these geoheritage sites in Trans-Himalayan district. So these are certain sediments that I was talking about. These are the Tethyan sediments. Look at both the sides of the valley floor. It is almost similar in height, and there is a road cut across. So during excavation, because of the building of roads, these sediments came across, and then people started doing research on it and found that these are the Tethyan sediments. So they have the sediments and the fossils right from the time of the Himalayan formation because of the collision of plates. So that's why it holds a paramount importance for geoscientists to understand. That's why it is important. And then why? Now look at these features. Now when I say cultural features and human responses, in all these images, if you see, these are rock structures, peculiarly those sandstone, siltstone, quartzites, and other stones which are there, and limestones are there. So all these particular rock structures, if you find, they have been humanized. If you see in image, one of the highest settlements in across world, it's about 4,600 meters above sea level. Then in image B, if you see a single rock structure being used for a particular settlement building, then you have numerous other settlements. Caves have been occupied by the Buddhist monasteries, and they have been placed in a particular cultural context. So what do you see here is the humanization of these geoheritage sites, and that's what I'm talking about. But alongside it, I'm also talking about the human activities in terms of tourism. So as this area is seasonally accessible, so what happens? There is seasonal activity for 4 to 6 months largely. And then these dhabas, as I quote, dhabas are basically roadside restaurant and where you have accommodation and fooding and lodging facilities available. These come into the picture. So these become center of economic activities around these geoheritage sites. That's where economics of season, that is the tourism, is linked to this geoheritage sites that what I'm talking about. So what happens? These dhabas become the center for the seasonal economy. And now I'll talk about that particular village in Trans-Himalayan region where it is said that every stone that you pick is potentially a fossil. So that village is called Langza village, and it is potentially a fossil park for us, which have yet to be declared. So Langza is also considered to be one of the highest villages in the world. And it is about 4,500 meters above sea level. Now, because it's very in proximity to the Tibetan part, and it has largely the Sakyapa sect of Tibetan Buddhism that occupies the places. So largely, if you look at this, it's a sparsely populated settlement in terms of Indian context, if you see. So there are only 137 people in the village and 33 houses. But remember, this village is important because every stone that you pick around the village is a fossil. So look at the situation of this particular village. It is over a hanging valley that you see here. And through GPS locations that I have marked, I'll be showing you the place exactly. So it is important that in this particular village, the soil itself is used to make the old mud vessels, and it has been part of the mud craft long since its history. So what you see here is that local soil is and local rock is the major contributory, what you say the geosystem services. It provides us the geosystem services for building houses, for mud vessels, and for other homestays that have been built. So what is happening? The local resources are part of the geoheritage that we are talking about. So that's why conservation comes into the picture as well. Now look at this particular image. So the main attraction in this particular village for everyone visiting this particular part of the Himalaya is to collect fossils. So because every stone in this village is a fossil that is largely of salopod type, that is part of the Tethyan sediment that we say. So Langza has these rich marine fossils, okay, and which has this repository of millions of years. So that's why I have studied this particular area in my PhD, and I am focusing upon it, that it should be declared a geoheritage site in order to conserve this place. So it can be done through planning of a fossil park, and there is a plan. So I have done it through a route mapping using my GPS, that what can be a particular peculiar route where people can come and go and visit this particular fossil park, and in situ conservation can take place. So my focus is on in situ conservation because people, their locals are selling off these fossils. They're picking up and they're selling off these fossils because it is economically beneficial, because of the seasonal tourism, that is the geotourism. And that's why there is a problem lying here that in future, I think that if we are not conserving it, we are not declaring it as a fossil village or fossil park or geopark, then there is a problem that later on people would not able to find these fossils anymore because now they are being sold off. So a planning and management has to be in place. So what I am currently saying here is that I have done a strength, weakness, and opportunities threat analysis, that is the SWOT analysis, to understand that strength is the landscape. It's cold desert landscape. It is glaciated, having numerous glacial lakes, unique faunal diversity is there. Indigenous knowledge is preserved in this part of Himalaya because it's locked from all the sides by land. Weakness is that it is remote in the same way, so it is not accessible. Services are hard to find. Opportunities is that what I'm talking here is that for geoheritage and geotourism potential is there. So geoheritage conservation using the technology, and it has immense potential to be declared as a fossil park. That is what I am aiming to disseminate. So, and the threat is this again, the developmental pressures that are coming in, and unchecked tourism has started happening in last 1 decade. So degradation of landscape, and such a fragile landscape is there. So degradation of this landscape would make another issue. And what is the best repository for geoscientists to study those Tethyan sediments, those Tethyan fossils? will not be there if we don't check it in current situation. So now I'm just showing you certain pictures of the issues of accessibility, if you see. So when you access this particular area, you find lots of landslides, avalanches, mud flows happening. So this is one major reason. That's why this is cut off from the mainland for majorly for 6 months about. And further, you see there is a tunneling project going on. They are trying hard in terms of, because the angle of repose and the slope angle is too much, so they cannot protect even by trying the landslide measurements. So what is happening? Lots of avalanche, landslides, things are there, which needs to be taken care of. Better management has to take place. And at the last, when I conclude, I would say these points, these are important in my presentation. In short, that role of geoheritage based tourism that is there is now becoming significant, and largely the vast reserve of georesources and geosites that accrue large tourists are coming from all across the world. So now people have discovered it, people are coming, so inflow is there. Unfortunately, this year there is no flow because of the lockdown situation, but yes, eventually this is the thing that we need to preserve. And also, rather than preserving, it's more about conservation. So in situ conservation for Tethyan sediments and all those Nicostrine deposits that are there, and it's a paradise for geoscientists. So that is one thing, because lots of geological studies and lots of modeling studies, lots of climate change studies can be done in this particular area. And the role of that seasonal dhaba that I said, the roadside restaurant, is important in terms of its economy that you say, because it's a seasonal economy which is directly linked to the geoheritage sites of this particular area. So there are numerous villages. The names are Darcha, Sarchu, Kibber, Langza, Komik. All these villages have numerous fossiliferous rocks, and it may be inferred that particular region that I'm talking about has tremendous potential to establish a fossil park in the Trans-Himalayan district of Lahaul and Spiti. So that's my submission. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to Krishna for a wonderful, wonderful, highly elevated talk in the high altitudes of the Himalayas. We will move to some questions before we finish up the session. Firstly, we have a question from Bruno, who asks, can't the conservation of the fossils on the site eventually kill one of the sources of revenue for the local people?
My answer, being a geoscientist, is that if we conserve something in its situation, then we can also use the system of maybe a ticket system, because the entries and exits are closed, right? So what we can do is we can charge the tourists for that particular site visit, and accordingly we can generate some resources that can be distributed to the local population so that it doesn't harm their economy. So in this condition, what will happen is that the fossils would be preserved in their present situation itself, and there will be no loss of or picking out of the fossils from the original landscape. And also it will support the local livelihood. So that is what my proposal is, but still it's being worked on, and I have presented this paper in several other conferences to other forums as well, so that I can create an awareness situation in India specifically. So I have done it. Now I'm yet to produce my book. So I'll be sending you the link to my book that is coming, that is in geodiversity in Trans-Himalayan region. It's coming soon in next maybe 20 days or so. So that's where I'm focusing upon this particular village and this particular issue in that one.
And we have a question from Tim, who asks, is there potential for sustainable harvesting of fossils to enable the villagers to have a stake in the management of their landscape? I think you partially answered that with the previous one, but did you want to answer anything more?
So I would like to just complement that answer with this sustainable word itself. I think in the name of sustainability, we have lost lots of development around the world. So I'm not too much into sustainable development. I am into rational development, rational sustainable development rather, not just sustainable development, because what happens, projects come in the name of sustainable development that do not fetch to the locals. So what is happening? There has to be an integrative plan, as you questioned him. The same plan has to be drawn, but with very careful objectives in the plan, so that it actually benefits the locals. Otherwise, what will happen? These fossils will go out of the landscape, and it will eventually be just consumed like any other resource. So that's where my focus is, that it should have an integrative plan where locals have a stake as they have their homestays. So people come and visit, they stay in their homes, they pay them for that. So they have a sustainable tourism out of this particular in situ conservation. But directly, if I say that if you sell 10 fossils and then you get 5% of it, that kind of economy I don't support as a plan. Thank you.
And I'm going to roll two questions into one. The first is from Suman, who asks, why is Indian law so harsh on the collection of fossils? And then we have a follow-up from Soma, who asks, do you think the local community will support the idea of creating a geopark?
Okay, the first question, why Indian law is such stringent? I'm sorry, I don't have this particular answer because I'm not a lawyer, but whatever information I have, I'll tell you that this law is not presently made. This is right coming from 1861. This is a British made law and it is yet to be amended. So I need our parliamentarians have to think about it. They have not thought about it because they consider maybe that part of Himalayan region very remote, is a little away from mainstream, so it's been neglected, and laws have been the same since 1861. That is first part, so it has to be amended. And the second part that was regarding, again, could you just clarify the second part of this was regarding? The question, would you please repeat? Sorry, Jack.
The second part was, do you think the local community will support the idea of having a geopark?
Yes, there is a mixed feeling, kind of, there is a situation of ambiverse here, because some of the local communities are supporting that idea because there are local NGOs, non-governmental organizations, they are working towards the in situ conservation and they're working with the villagers local there, providing them alternative livelihoods. Because if they don't have any other livelihood, they will go to fossil selling. So what they're providing is the alternative livelihood in the seasonal tourism basis. So that has already started. But some of the villagers who are downtrodden, who don't have anything, they find it easy to pick a stone and sell it to any tourist, they still are doing it. So there has to be some plan that is there for all kinds of people so that we gain a maximum support. So it's kind of a mixed feelings right now in terms of this situation. And it's a very new study that I did, and it is just completed in 2016. So there is no study as well. I did not have any reference. I just took certain references from Brazil, from Scandinavia, from China, from so many other places in the world. And then I framed my study for geodiversity and geoheritage sites in Trans-Himalayan region. So it's still new in India. It will take a little time, I think. And that's what I'm doing, is disseminating as much as on this topic so that people can understand this thing. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you once more,